What's the story, bloody and gory? I'm Kat Binning, and this is Cat's Got Your Terror, a show where I tell you and a guest in my Manor of Death something that I find terrifying, so I'm not the only one with nightmares. Tonight, I am delighted to introduce my two guests in the Manor this evening, Anthony Sarille and Caitlin Meile. Although they have their own lives and accolades, I brought them here because they are probably two people who know me better than anyone. One having lived with me for almost 10 years, and the other being my best friend since we were 9, so that clocks us at 24 years of friendship. So which is which? you can say.
Fight it out. I've been stuck with her since we were 9,
Thank you.
and we're still going strong.
So Anthony, that leaves you having been the roommate for 10 years.
That's right. That's me.
Also,
Or has it?
Also, Caitlin once saw a baby Loch Ness Monster and has also completed the Pinnacle Peak Steakhouse Challenge, where we think she ate a 32-ounce steak, which that was the challenge. She only had to eat a 32-ounce steak, but then she doubled down and ate the steak, a baked potato, and a milkshake.
She's like, no, I insist.
I think we were 12.
All I know is I will never forget that because, again, everyone was so impressed because, like, remember, Caitlin's been, like, all of 5'0" her entire life. So, like, to see this, like, tiny girl walk in and be like, yes, give me your biggest steak.
I was like a whopping 90 pounds.
Yeah. The steak was genuinely, like, bigger than she was. It was crazy.
But, I mean, it was good. I lost my tooth in the parking lot, and then we went rock climbing
How?
after.
Because she, at 12 years old, was still losing
From the
baby
baked
teeth.
potato?
Well, yes, that is.
And the 32-ounce steak?
Yeah, I was a late bloomer, okay? I still had like a couple baby teeth left, and I just ate my weight in beef.
That tooth really stuck it out.
It really did.
Until the parking
It
lot.
really it was like, finally, I've seen it all.
Until it was actually out.
It timed out. It's like, I'm done.
Oh my
See ya.
What a great accomplishment before it ended, you know?
And Anthony is not only extremely good looking, he survived what he thought was the rapture and has proven he would survive a horror movie.
Oh my gosh.
He's also not a stranger to the paranormal.
Oh, yes. I mean, so not me personally. You know, a little backstory, I'm half black, so I don't deal with that. We don't deal with that. But, you know, my mom and that side of the family, they have all dabbled in it. I saw my mom a couple weeks ago, and she's like, yeah, no, I've seen something around the house. And I came in the other day and I heard someone say out loud, fuck.
And it wasn't.
She's like, oh, she has it recorded anyway. But my grandma has done exorcisms. My mama swears that she was there and saw it, and this, smoke came out of the person's mouth, and it was screaming, and all, I don't know.
Oh my God.
So that's what I hear, but I do not dabble in it at all.
Well, luckily today we're not doing anything paranormal. I mean, it might get paranormal, but who knows? Another fun fact about these two is that the three of us have a shared experience that kind of involves, or it does involve, the topic we're going to cover today. Do you guys have any ideas?
Green Inferno.
Yes!
Oh my gosh! No.
Okay, so yes, as Caitlin
Core.
has said, it is Green Inferno, which in case anybody doesn't know, Green Inferno is a movie about a group of cannibals in the middle of like the Amazon. Also, before we watched the movie, the three of us had partaken in an herbal supplement, and we're feeling a certain type of way. And let's just say, I will never forget that experience because there's two moments that stand out the most, which was Anthony being so affected by the herbal supplement.
Physically.
Physically. There was a point in the movie where there's a guy and he walks into a propeller right after they survived this huge plane crash, spoiler alert. And the guy walks into the propeller and Anthony just goes, oh, how embarrassing for him.
I mean, honestly, again, you just survived a plane crash, and then you walk into a propeller. That's not moving, by the way. It literally
was
was
like
just
slowly spinning.
And he just gong, and then That's so embarrassing. You know, like.
And then, okay, which one of you literally gagged the entire time? One of you, maybe it was both of you, kept being like, "Huh?"
It was 10 out of 10 me. 100.
Yeah.
I've never been more physically ill from a movie before in my life than that movie. I was like, I cannot
Well, there was
do
like,
this.
what I remember about that movie was like the sound effects were very convincing.
Yeah.
It was rough. Okay, well, luckily there's no sound effects to this episode, so
Please.
just so you know.
I enjoyed your sound effects though.
Added it in the background.
However, that being said, we are talking about cannibals, and I'm going to offer this warning. This episode is absolutely not for anyone who is squeamish. If you are eating, either stop and come back to the episode later. Also, due to the topic, we will be discussing violent and sexual crimes as well as child murder. So if any of that is going to trigger you in any way, I highly suggest you skip this one. I'm serious. Don't say I didn't warn you. It gets pretty graphic and gruesome. I'm talking about people literally eating people. So if that's not for you, I'll see you next time. Now, I could discuss the bigger cases, the more well-known ones, the ones that everybody knows, the Donner Party, Dahmer, etc. But I want to tell you about the cannibals that you probably didn't even know existed.
Yeah, I didn't know
So-
there was more than just. The fact there's more than just one is a problem.
Pretty much, yeah. So we're going to start with Mark Sappington, a.k.a. the Kansas City Vampire. Mark Sappington grew up on the north side of Kansas City. Mark's mother was a hardworking single mom. The boy's father pieced out before Mark was born, and Mark has never even met him. That meant his mother had to be particularly strong, and one of the ways she tried to instill a set of values in her son was to drag him to church every Sunday. He never was a particularly good student, but Sappington's intelligence was revealed in a quiet charm. His engaging personality drew people to him, teachers, parents, and other kids. Unfortunately, and despite his mother's best efforts, as he reached adolescence, Mark acquired a taste for PCP, a drug which some can say make users paranoid, even psychotic. Mark loved to smoke danks, which I guess is the street slang for cigarettes soaked in embalming fluid and then dried, which probably explains the events that happened next, which I
think
just...
marijuana, right?
Like-
We're
Yeah.
doing like that's dank.
Yeah.
That is whole new level.
Listen,
Yeah, I
just
was-
so you know,
yeah, I was like,
don't
that
be in
takes-
these streets asking for dank,
No.
because apparently
Don't
you're
even
gonna
say
get
that's dank anymore.
legit. Yeah, wow, that's an old term.
Okay, uncultured. We talked about this.
Dead.
Self-awareness, love it.
Soon, according to Sappington, the voices took over. Curiously, even though Sappington grew up in the church, and typically those suffering from the sorts of delusions Mark endured attached them to some supernatural significance, yet Sappington never offered a realization. Aside from fear of punishment that the voices vowed were in store, if he didn't carry out their commands. He never offered up as to why he followed their instructions. So he never gave like a attachment to the voice, meaning like he never said it was like the devil or God, or like he never attached an entity to these voices, but only offered that he like was worried that something would happen to him if he didn't do what they said.
Got it. Did they?
Fair.
Were they threatening him, or he was just like assuming that if he didn't?
I guess like that was part of like the delusions. It's
Got
like they
it.
were telling him like to do these things or something bad would happen to
Got
him.
you. Got you.
As controlling as the voices were, telling Mark Sappington when to kill and what to do afterwards, they never selected the victims. That was left to Sappington and chance. According to him, Mark searched for 3 weeks before he chose his first victim. Despite Sappington's initial search of a stranger, the person he chose was a neighborhood friend. Terry Green, 25, was a longtime friend of Sappington's. They would often spend time at each other's homes. So there was nothing out of the norm when Green showed up unannounced at Sappington's door in April 2001. Lieutenant Davenport, one detective who took his confession, later said, "It was just an extreme case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time."
No.
I know. The voices.
Should I be nervous to come over now? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
If anything, this is gonna. If anything that this topic teaches you, it's that you don't know anyone.
Trust no one.
Trust
Right.
no one.
Yikes. Okay.
The voices told Mark to lure Green to the basement of his mother's home. They also told Sappington told Sappington to attack Green with a hunting knife that he had hidden in one of the basement's corners. The slaying happened with such fury and ferocity that the walls of the basement were splattered with blood. CSI investigators noted. With Green lifeless on the floor, the voices allegedly told Mark Sappington that they had one more command for him. Obeying the voices, Sappington later said, he knelt down over the body of his friend and began to lap up his blood.
Oh, no. Oh, God.
Yeah. No.
Sick.
Don't do that to your friends.
This
I mean, I think the first part you don't do either. But
Don't do
to
any
your
of it.
friends.
Never to your friends. Yeah.
lap up the blood. Yes.
But Sappington left the task unfinished. He heard noises, and the voices told Sappington to dispose of the body immediately. Luckily, Sappington could not have picked a more obvious place to dump Green's remains. Using his mother's car, Mark crossed the river and entered Kansas City, Missouri. Sappington then drove to the edge of the parking lot at a nightclub he and Green frequented. He dumped the covered body into a car's backseat. So he just picked like a random car in the parking lot of a club that he and this friend went to all the time, and left his body in the backseat of this car like covered up. Could you imagine coming back to your car and there's just a dead dude in the back?
No, you're having a great time, couple cocktails. This is why I Uber. Like,
Yeah.
don't drink and drive.
This is a lesson for
first
Uber.
and foremost.
Absolutely. What a
And
great
This is also an
Like-
ad for Uber.
yeah,
Yeah. You could
this
plug
is
that,
a
that'd be
yeah.
great.
Don't drink and drive because you might find dead bodies
There you go.
in the back of your car.
Of course, it didn't take long for the Missouri police to find the body, but it wasn't until 3 days later did police link it to Sappington. But now, his killing spree was already underway. Mark Sappington, allegedly succumbing to the voices, managed to kill 2 more people before his capture. 22-year-old Michael Weaver, another friend of Sappington's, was next. It was just 3 days after Green's death. The voices told Mark Sappington to go hunting again. Sappington spotted Weaver sitting on the steps of his house. The pair struck up a conversation with Sappington suggesting that they take a drive in Weaver's car. In a shadowy alley only 3 blocks from Sappington's home, he fatally stabbed Weaver. The voices told him to drink Weaver's blood. But he soon abandoned the task out of fear of discovery. Sappington fled, leaving the body behind. On his way home from Weaver's murder, so literally like he just killed this dude, drank his blood, and then was on his way home, Sappington spotted Freddie, a teenager who adored and looked up to Sappington.
Freddie.
Yeah.
Oh, Freddie.
Pouring out for Freddie, guys. It's sad. Neighbors reported that Freddie thought of Mark as a big brother. And guys, it gets so bad. The voices liked the new target, and Mark Sappington invited Freddie back to his house. This time, Sappington used a shotgun to kill, and now, without any distractions or interruptions, he was able to do more than just lap at the blood. There was one more request the voices were making. Sappington crudely butchered Freddie's body and then proceeded to feast upon his raw flesh.
Oh.
Wait, how did we escalate so quickly?
From
This is the
drinking
same
blood.
night, right?
This is so he killed the first guy, drank his blood. 3 days later, killed that other guy, drank his blood, and then later that
Later this
literally,
night,
I think
Freddie's at
within
the
10
house.
minutes, got Freddie to the house and ate him.
He streamlined this whole process.
Freddie's how old again, you said?
He was just like a teenager. I don't know his exact. I think it was 16, 17.
And also, I'm sorry, what year is this again?
This is 1991, I think.
What?
Yeah. It's sad.
My heart breaks for Freddie.
It's really, really
This
sad.
is why you don't leave your house and you trust no.
This is
Stay
how
home.
agoraphobia starts.
Yeah.
Have a
For real.
cocktail, read a book, stay home. No
Lock
clubs.
your windows.
His literal thirst for blood complete. He stuffed what was left of Freddie into a trash bag, leaving that poor boy's remains on his basement floor. Then Sappington left the house. Just was like, cool, I did the thing, and then went for a walk. Was like, cool,
Yeah,
done.
let me walk off dinner.
Yeah,
Yeah,
legit.
just-
Legit.
Terrible people. Jeez Louise.
That's
I
why you're
mean,
here.
that he probably just normalized
You're here because you're
that.
terrible people.
That's
That's what I look for in my friends.
You're welcome.
In walks a therapist.
And guys, this is your intervention.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So this is, again, guys, it's so sad. Sappington's mother discovered the gruesome scene a few hours later. Although she rarely ventured down to the basement, which was considered her son's territory, she couldn't ignore the trail of blood drops near and along the cellar stairs. After she unfortunately had a panoramic view, because you know when you go down into a basement, like when you're at the top of the stairs, you can see down into the entire basement.
Right.
She saw the entire scene.
Literally
Poor Mrs.
Blood all over the
terrifying.
walls.
Yeah.
Basements already are terrifying.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Sappington's mom, luckily, called the police. It didn't take long for the cops to find Mark Sappington on the street. Sappington decided to flee, commandeering a passing car. He forced the female driver into the passenger seat and led police on a brief chase. He was caught, he confessed to his crimes, and Mark Sappington is currently serving 4 consecutive life sentences. One of the detectives who took Mark's confession said, "The really scary thing that the victims could have been anybody. He talked to me about going out on the street and looking at people, asking the voices in his head, what about him? What about her? These people never knew that it could have been them, that they could have been killed and eaten."
Oh my gosh.
And that's Mark Sappington, aka the Kansas City Vampire.
And that's why I'm mean to everyone.
This
don't
is
have
a great-
strangers. You
This
don't.
is a great, yeah, the moral of the story is to be mean to everyone because they're gonna eat you.
Fuck being polite. Oh, sorry. Don't be
Relax.
polite. Do not. I'm hyped up. I mean, I would like to address the voices in his head. If he can't give it a title, is it just his? Like, we all have a little voice
That's
in
why I
our
kept
head.
saying that's why I kept saying the
Like,
voices too. I'm wondering if just like
It's his
again, he was doing a
subconscious.
lot of PCP. He was smoking cigarettes soaked in embalming fluid. What do you think's gonna happen? Like it's gonna trigger something in your brain, and it's scary.
Sounds like a good Thursday night.
Wait, which night are we talking about?
My last
Anyway.
Thursday.
No, I mean that's
Don't ask questions
honestly
you don't want answers to.
so sad. Again, it's the Freddy thing that really
I
shook me to the
know!
core. Like,
I know. Also, in case anyone's wondering, we deal with dark things with humor.
Otherwise, it hurts, and we don't.
Otherwise,
like
it hurts.
dirty
Yeah, we
feelings.
laugh because otherwise we'd cry.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next cannibal
oh,
is one who I stumbled upon a while ago. But I can't remember how. My best guess is that he was featured on some sort of list, and I was reading or a documentary that I watched because I remember seeing interviews with him because I remember looking at him and being like, that guy's definitely a cannibal.
confirmed, confirmed.
Confirmed.
Vibes.
But there's another reason why this case has stayed with me. Anyway, it's Issei Sagawa. Sagawa was born in Kobe, Japan on April 26, 1949. And for as long as he can remember, he possessed cannibalistic urges and a fascination with eating human flesh. He sought out fairy tales that involved humans being eaten, which I'm not sure how many of those are, but it said his favorite was Hansel and Gretel. He even recalls noticing classmates' thighs in first grade and thinking, that looks delicious.
Why
He
you look
blamed-
at me?
Yeah, he blamed the media's representation
Don't look
of
at my
West.
leg.
Don't-
Yeah, none of this good. That's wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
He blamed the media's representation of Western women, like Grace Kelly, for sparking his cannibalistic fantasies, equating it with sexual desire. When other people dreamed of bedding these beautiful women, Sagawa dreamed of consuming them.
And it's always the woman's fault.
Yeah.
It's simply a fetish, he said. For example, if a normal man fancied a girl, he'd naturally feel a desire to see her as often as possible, to be close to her, to smell her and kiss her, right? To me, eating is just an extension of that. Frankly, I can't fathom why everyone doesn't feel this urge to eat, to consume other people.
What happened to good old bondage? Just stick with one fetish that's not so.
You know,
Intense.
take it back to Housewives. What happened to hello? How are you? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Nice to
keep
meet
it
you.
right. You know, let's keep it simple. We don't have to consume like
Listen,
that.
Caitlin's starting line and someone else's starting line are different, and that's fine,
You know, perspective, and I actually respect that. So thank you.
I mean, be upfront. What are you gonna do? Waste all your time and then be like, "Oh, you don't like bondage? I'm out." Like, I don't know.
You don't want to be eaten? Fine.
So much of this is getting cut. Oh my God. Okay. He maintains, however, that he never thought of killing them, only, quote, to gnaw on their flesh. I didn't think about killing them. I just wanted to eat them.
Just nibble?
Yeah, I guess.
Cool.
No, not nibble, gnaw. That was what he said. Although Sagawa did once attempt to see a psychiatrist for his urge at 15, he found it unhelpful and retreated further into his isolated psyche. Then, in 1981, after repressing his desires for 32 years, he finally acted on them. Issei Sagawa had moved to Paris to study literature at Sorbonne, a public research university. Once there, he said, his cannibalistic urges took over. Eventually, he found his perfect victim. Renée Hartveld was a Dutch student studying with Sagawa at Sorbonne University in Paris. Over time, Sagawa struck up a friendship with her, occasionally inviting her in his home for dinner. Again, don't be friends with anyone. At some point, he gained her
Stay
trust.
home.
See, and again, gained her trust. Trust no one.
Mm-hmm.
He attempted to kill her once unsuccessfully before actually murdering her. The first time the gun misfired when her back was turned. The very next night, he tried again. This time, the gun fired and Hartveld was killed instantly. Quote, I thought about killing an ambulance, Issei recalled. But then I thought, hang on, don't be stupid. You've been dreaming about this for 32 years and now it's actually happening. Yeah. Immediately after killing her, he defiled her corpse and began cutting her open. Quote, the first thing I did was cut into her buttock. No matter how deep I cut, all I saw was the fat beneath the skin. It looked like corn, and it took a while to actually reach the red meat, Sagawa recalled. The moment I saw the meat, I tore a chunk off with my fingers and threw it into my mouth. It was truly a historical moment for me. Ultimately, he said his only regret was that he didn't do it while she was alive. What I truly wished was to eat her living flesh, he said. Nobody believes me, but my ultimate intention was not to kill her. My ultimate intention was to eat her, not necessarily to kill her. Again, what? How were you planning to do that? I'm going to eat you, but you're going to say, well, there is a case where a guy did eat a piece of a guy where he was still alive.
There's
so
a
never
movie
mind.
on Hulu about this.
This case? Probably.
No.
Oh, no.
But like this like concept is like, I think Fresh is what it's called.
Oh, maybe.
Or something like that. Fresh or Flesh. But it's very good movie. But
What are you watching on?
it's Hulu. That's prime time.
Hulu. Also, Hulu suggests things to you, so that just means what have you been
Yeah,
watching?
the issue is not with me. It's with the Hulu producers.
Sure, that's what they typically say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
2 days after killing Hartveld, Sagawa disposed of what remained of her body. He had eaten or frozen most of her pelvic region, so he put her legs, torso, and head into 2 suitcases and hailed a cab. The taxi dropped him off at a park, which had a secluded lake inside of it. He had planned to drop the suitcase in the lake, but several people noticed the suitcases dripping blood as he was like going to the lake. So the French police were notified. When police found Sagawa and questioned him, his response was simply an admission. I killed her to eat her flesh.
It's a whole new Uber Eats, though. I mean,
My favorite is that Caitlin makes a joke and then immediately apologizes. Dead.
it's
Issei Sagawa awaited trial for 2 years in a French prison. When it was finally time for him to be tried, a French judge declared him legally insane and unfit to stand trial, dropping the charges and ordering him to be held indefinitely in a mental institution. Then they deported him back to Japan, where he was supposed to spend the rest of his days in a Japanese mental hospital. But he didn't.
He is way out of there.
Because the charges in France had been dropped, the court documents were sealed and couldn't be released to Japanese authorities. Therefore, the Japanese had no case against Sagawa and had no choice but to let him walk free. And on August 12th, 1986, 6 years after his crime, Issei Sagawa checked himself out of a psychiatric hospital in Tokyo, and he walked the streets as a free man until he died of pneumonia literally last November in 2022 at the age of 73.
Stop.
6 years. He did 2 years in prison and then the rest in a mental institution, and then he was like, oh, okay, I'm good, and left.
That's
After doing that to that woman. Not only that, okay, so the reason I chose this and the reason it stuck with me is one is that like he didn't do any jail time. Like he was a cannibal. The second is that he was very unapologetic about it. He even he wrote over 20 books. So a lot of these quotes that I'm using are from the books that he's written. Yeah. He's starred in movies. He's done like spicy movies about it.
Absolutely
yeah, exactly.
Not.
He wrote manga, like the Japanese, like yeah. He wrote like that about it, like totally capitalized off of these crimes. Is that not sick? Also, like, how does that dude have any friends? Like, really?
But the people buying his stuff, like,
For real.
you want to talk about sick?
And wrote 20 books about what?
About this, and then about like just him being like a cannibal. So I guess like his cannibalistic urges never stopped.
Different recipes.
They're all cookbooks. Is that what you said?
I'm sorry. Dark humor heals the pain, okay? I'm feeling a lot of things.
It's fall.
It's fun. Oh my god.
But he was out, like, how do we know he wasn't out doing exactly what he should not have been doing?
Right.
Like,
I don't know. I think that's the question.
The
Is it's
urges
like
don't
because
go
he said
away.
that and that was a lot of the thing too, was like he himself said
Sometimes old people are strong.
Yeah, and the urges never went away. Like he said that he would look at people constantly. Like I was watching all of these like interviews and stuff with him, and he was saying that like up until the day he died, he would see women out on like the street, like sitting on a park bench, and he would be like, I want to eat her. Like I'm thinking about consuming her. Like that was how. So again, like he said, he kind of equates it to sexual desire, which I'm like, that is so scary. That like every time he was like attracted to somebody, he wanted to eat them.
Right.
my biggest question mark is, how did he get there? What triggered that feeling, that
Well, he said-
parallel feeling, like as a child?
I don't know.
Obviously, he's a child when it first
He said it started,
started.
yeah, he said like from the very beginning he's remembered having these urges. So I don't know what happened to him. I mean, I'm sure something, right? Like
There had to be some
yeah,
kind of
who
trigger.
knows? Okay, but anyway, all right, you guys are still with me? You good? Cool.
We're
We
home.
have one more.
Okay.
Whew. This is Nathaniel Barjona, the boy butcher. Again, warning.
The boy butcher. What?
Yeah, again, warning, this gross piece of worthless human garbage carried out horrific and heinous acts on kids, so stop here if you need to. I don't go into anything too graphic, but his crimes were against young boys, so you've been warned. Nathaniel Barjona was born David Paul Brown in Worcestershire.
Worcestershire.
Wash that.
That's gonna sound like it's dubbed in.
Worcestershire.
I'm not saying it again, so that's all you get.
It's wash that ass in the shower. Just
Yeah, whatever. Listen, he was born in Massachusetts. Okay, let's just go with that. In 1957, and there were early signs that he wasn't a normal child. In 1964, Barjona received a Ouija board for his 7th birthday. Using the promise of trying the board out, he lured a 5-year-old neighbor into his basement. There, he tried to strangle her. He's like, how is he? Wait, he was born in, okay, so he's like a little under 10, 1957, 1964.
Yeah.
7, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, for his 7th birthday. So yeah, so 7. At 7, he tried to strangle a 5-year-old. So that's where it starts, kids.
Casual.
Luckily, the girl's screams alerted Barjona's mother, who ran downstairs and forced him to let her go. I guess thinking it was a one-off thing, maybe chalking it up to roughhousing gone wrong, nothing came of the incident. But in 1970, Barjona decided to try again. So like 6 years later. Promising another neighbor, a 6-year-old boy, that they would go sledding, Barjona lured the child to a secluded area where he assaulted him. This became a pattern for Barjona, but as he grew older, he developed a more sophisticated technique to gain his victims. In 1975, Barjona approached an 8-year-old boy on his way to school, claiming to be a police officer. Barjona lured the boy into his car, where he began to assault him and strangle him. Luckily for the boy, a neighbor looking out their window saw him be abducted and called the police. Barjona was arrested, but was only sentenced to a year's probation. The light sentence emboldened Barjona, shocker. And 3 years later, he abducted another 2 boys at the same time from a movie theater after claiming to be a police officer and telling them they were under arrest. He handcuffed the boys before taking them to a secluded area, and trying to silence a potential witness, Barjona began strangling one of the children. When he was convinced that the boy was dead, he put the other victim in his trunk and drove away. Thank God the boy had actually survived the attack and ran to get help. So the one that he strangled and left for dead luckily was alive.
Yeah.
Which, however, I can't even imagine the trauma that he suffered.
100%.
Barjona was soon found by police and with the other victim still in his trunk. This time, Barjona was charged with attempted murder. Attempted murder is a reward for not doing what you set out to do. Mm-hmm. It's so dumb. The fact that it's a lesser sentence will never make sense to me because we're basically rewarding you for not carrying out your ultimate task, which was murder.
Because you got caught.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, you got caught, so congratulations. We're going to be easier on you because you're stupid, I guess. I don't know.
Every intent should still be like, nope.
Intent is intent.
100%.
Intent is intent. Yeah.
Result or not.
Exactly. So, I roll. And was sentenced to 18 to 20 years in prison. But do you think he served 18 to 20 years? No.
Absolutely not.
Solid feeling that's a no.
While in prison, Barjona began meeting with a psychiatrist. After hearing him describe his fantasies, which revolved around murdering, dissecting, and eventually eating children, the psychiatrist recommended that he be moved to a mental hospital. But in 1991, a judge concurred with psychiatric evaluations that had somehow found him to not be dangerous. Yeah.
What?
After all of that, a psychiatrist was like, you know what, guys? I don't think so. And a judge was like, well, if you don't think so, I don't think so.
In what public space?
Your guess is as good as mine. The judge agreed to release Barjona on probation if he moved up to Montana to live with his mother. Though it was also recommended, not even like a part of his probation was he forced to, that he seek psychiatric help.
You might want to talk to someone, but again, you don't seem too bad, man.
But also, your mama might fix it.
If you
What?
want to, maybe. Mama didn't fix it when he was little.
Thank you.
A good
Thank
little
you. Yeah.
whooping would have fixed it after the first.
Because is that what fixed you, Caitlin?
Obviously. We're doing
If
great.
not, she'd be the fourth name on this list.
For real. For real. Oh my gosh.
Caitlin.
I'm like, shh.
Yeah, literally just days, guys. After being released, Barjona spotted a 7-year-old boy sitting in a parked car. He forced his way into the car and tried to smother the boy. Luckily, Barjona was stopped by the boy's mother and was quickly arrested. And then I'm not entirely sure how he was arrested and then let go, but after the arrest, he fled to Montana. So I don't know if they took him in, he got released on bail before they could check his stuff or whatever, but he fled to Montana. This allowed Barjona to chameleon into the local community. By now he had changed his name, but literally nothing else. In 1996, 10-year-old Zachary Ramsey disappeared on his way to school. His parents filed a missing person report, but the local police department wasn't used to that sort of crime. With few leads, the case went cold. Meanwhile, Nathaniel Barjona was living in a nearby apartment building. There, he'd secretly been luring young boys from the area inside his apartment before assaulting them. He'd even installed a pulley from the ceiling where he hung at least one of them by the neck.
Oh my God.
Disappointingly, these crimes went undiscovered for years. One woman grew suspicious after her child suddenly became withdrawn and angry after spending time with Barjona, but no one thought that someone in their quaint community of Great Falls, Montana, could be molesting children, much less suspecting that the nice man next door who often cooked and shared his meals with his neighbors was killing them. But neighbors did notice that the food Barjona made them was full of strange meat that they couldn't identify. When asked, Barjona claimed that it had come...
Rednecks.
Yeah. So don't eat food that your neighbors give you, friends.
Also, why is your kids hanging out with a neighbor?
This was in the early 90s when everyone thought everyone was still good.
My mom
Was the
didn't even
stranger
let me
danger
walk
thing
down
then?
the
My
street.
mom didn't let you do a lot of things.
True. Look how that turned out for her.
Joke's on you.
So when asked about the meat, Barjona claimed that it had come from a deer he shot, though no one ever knew Barjona to go hunting. And also, if you looked at this guy, this dude's not hunting.
Right.
He's
No.
a big old boy But not the big old boy that spends his time in a deer stand, that's for
Not
sure.
corn-fed big old boy.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And deer is very distinctive.
Yeah.
He's like a
also,
pin-
this is Montana. These people know what deer is.
Yeah.
Like,
Deer,
that's
elk, all of it.
disturbing. Yeah.
He's like a Pinnacle Peak guy.
Not quite, I can tell. He wishes.
In 1999, he was arrested outside a local elementary school carrying a fake gun and dressed as a police officer. At first, the charge was simply impersonating a police officer, but when the police searched Barjona's home, they made a shocking discovery. So thank God they decided to search this dude's home.
Right.
Inside Nathaniel Barjona's home, investigators discovered thousands of photos of children cut from magazines and a bizarre journal written in code. So we had this journal, the entire thing was written in code. The journal was sent to the FBI to be decoded while the police began looking into the possibility that Barjona had murdered Ramsey, that boy that had gone missing. Meanwhile, other neighbors now came forward with allegations that Barjona had been molesting their children. And Barjona was quickly charged with kidnapping and sexual assault. By the time the trial began, the FBI had decoded Barjona's journal. Inside, he described his obsession with torturing and murdering children. There was also a list of 22 names. 8 of them were known to be Nathaniel Barjona's earlier victims. Many of the rest were local children, and some were never identified. Even more disturbingly, the diary detailed his plans to cook and eat children with recipes titled Barbecued Kid, My Little Kid Dessert, Little Boy Stew, Little Boy Pot Pies, and my personal favorite, Lunch is served on the patio with roasted child. What?
With the vegetable medley?
I guess! With the crudité? Sir! What? Who are you serving this to, by the way?
He's been reading what's his name's fucking cookbooks. Oh, sorry. I got really excited there. He's been reading the other man's cookbooks.
Oh my God.
And trying to either keep up or
Yeah,
add
the first
to.
guy's cookbooks, he's like, these are
Yeah,
great
Ishido? No.
recipes.
Ugh.
That's
Lots of feelings on that.
Yeah. So these were all entries in Barjona's twisted writings, along with the meat grinder that police also found in Barjona's home. The writings raised a dark suspicion. Barjona was sentenced to 130 years in prison for molestation charges. He was found dead in his cell due to heart attack in 2008. To this day, yeah, I know, thank God. To this day, no one is sure how many people Nathaniel Barjona killed. He is a possible suspect in several murders in Massachusetts, Wyoming, and Montana, because when he fled, he traveled. But none have ever been conclusively solved. There has never been enough evidence to prove the allegations of cannibalism one way or another, though. However, there's enough circumstantial evidence to make one wonder. So they didn't find enough evidence to charge him with cannibalism. Like, they, I guess, tested the meat grinder and they didn't find anything, and then there wasn't like any residue or anything found in his home. But like, he had unknown victims, recipes, and a meat grinder.
Okay, it's also the 90s. Like,
Yeah, I don't think we're
Our
jumping to
forensics
conclusions here.
wasn't-
Why does he have a meat grinder? If he's not a hunter, if he's not doing that, like, why? Tell me why.
literally no reason.
I know!
I mean, I hunt and I don't have a meat grinder.
Precisely.
Like-
Precisely. I was just going to ask you, I was like, do you have a meat
No,
grinder?
I don't have a meat grinder.
Yes, whereas if you had a meat grinder, I wouldn't
Yeah,
question
no, that's weird. Let me cancel my order.
You
from-
probably should.
it. Did you order a meat grinder?
I'm also a little sad that he died of a heart attack. That seems like such
Yeah, he got to
An
die of a heart
easy way
attack in
out.
prison.
Right.
like that upsets me.
Yeah. Well, I know that's all I could stomach, so I can imagine how the rest of you are doing. Okay, also, don't think I was just going to gloss over it and not come back to it. I figured we could all, we all need a nice light ending. So, Caitlin, can you tell us about the baby Loch Ness Monster encounter?
I don't even know where to start.
So start it like you're telling it on like a interview documentary series.
Growing up, we used to go to El Cap Lake with Caitlin's family. And
By the way, my real name is Caitlin, in case anyone's confused.
Cat. Ta-da.
You're doing great. You're doing
We
great.
would go up to go fishing, sit by the lake, hang out, and I remember sitting next to your grandparents, and the sun was going down, and I look out on the lake, and I will stand by this till the day that I die. There was a baby Loch Ness monster. Like the stuff you see in the photos, like it had the big old hump, had the neck coming out, and I mean, we're in East County, so there's some weird stuff in that lake. I'm sure you will find anything and everything in there. But this thing was cruising with its little head moving across the lake, and I jumped up and was like, "Baby Loch Ness monster!" And everyone went to like turn to look, and nobody else saw it. I didn't feel stupid. I knew what I saw.
Okay, first of all, I did see it, and it was definitely a water snake.
It
But I
was
could totally see how you would think it was a baby Loch Ness.
Okay,
I love that you're like,
as-
I didn't feel stupid. Said very defensively.
I am not dumb.
I know you. I had to beat you too. Okay, a water snake, right? Even out hunting, when we go out, have you seen a water snake come off the hillside into the water and what it does? It goes this way, and they move. High
You know,
speeds.
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. They do move this way, and it definitely was moving
All right?
this way.
I've thought about this a lot.
I know my
Facts.
theories, man.
I've tested a lot of snakes
Aliens,
moving in
like-
water.
Okay, you mind your business. I have.
I've seen you at Lake Murray. Anyway,
I'm sorry. But nothing else. There's no logs out there because there's no trees in the water. There's barely any water out there as is. But nothing could have moved like that. It wasn't the cattle that are down there. It wasn't the horses. It
Well,
was
it definitely
little.
wasn't a cow.
or horse.
Let's just get that perfectly clear. I will agree there was some sort of reptile creature that came out of the water and did not move like a or like a water snake
No.
or like any snakes that we know that would swim. So that's true, and that's kind of has solidified our friendship is this shared baby Loch Ness monster experience.
It was a thing. Your family has harassed me for that for years, but I stand by that.
It's true. You have been made fun of for your baby Loch Ness monster
builds
encounter,
character.
but you're here to say you stand by it.
I do.
I am a
Bring
believer.
out the scientists. Like I'm telling
Bring
you,
out the scientists.
it's probably biggest.
I'm,
Bring me
biggest
the
can be
I'm
now.
proud.
That's
Well,
fine.
thanks for joining me, Anthony and Caitlin. I'm so happy you got to join me in the Manor.
Yes,
Isn't it cool?
thank you so much. It is
I know.
amazing here.
And thank you for tuning in. And remember, don't eat strange meat. Until we meet again, happy terrors.
Next time on Cat's Got Your Terror.
I don't want it to be real.
The case involves strange voices, levitation, flying objects.
I'm gonna stab you. I'm gonna pretend to fix your TV, then I'm gonna stab you. Happy Halloween.